Willie D Live.
What's up, family? If it's your first time checking out the show, let me know what city, what state you're coming in from. If you're outside of the U.S., let me know what country you represent. Throw up your flag. Family, I need you to smash up the likes, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Also, if you have not done so already, after you subscribe, there's a little bell next to your subscribe button. Go ahead and click that thing right now so you can get your notifications each time I drop a new video like this. That way you'll be in the loop. I'll let a few hundred of y'all come in, then I'm going in. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to give a few shout outs to the early birds, starting with Dun OG man. What's up? Stephen Wren, Michael Banks. Yeah, what's up, Connie? Who is that? Lottie. What's up, Karen Robinson? Jamal Henderson. That girl, brother man. Elder Meatshaw, what it do? Chris Dinkins. I see you, Jonathan. Tiggs. All right, fam. Going right on in because we got business, man. We got to handle this right quick. You know, I put out something earlier today, and I said that Diddy was going home, and y'all got mad. Well, not y'all, but some of y'all got mad at me. Call me everything but a child of God. That's all right, because I'm blessed and highly favored. Anyway, fam, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be much of the same thing. I'm going to put out another title that say, Diddy is going home today. That's right. I know I'm getting under some of y'all's skin. I know some of y'all hate it. Y'all want to see a black man go down. Y'all don't care if it's Diddy, Pretty Ricky, Leroy, Tyrone. Y'all don't give a damn. Y'all just want to see a black man go down. That's what I'm picking up, fam. I'm picking up some of y'all just want to see a black man go down. That's what it seemed like to me. Because I think anybody with a reasonable mind, let's remove Diddy from the situation. And I bet you $1 to a donut if it was somebody that you rock with and you heard those same charges, the same evidence, you would have been like, man, get out of here. This sounds like somebody being railroaded. That ain't no good case. That's what you would have said. But because it's Diddy and you don't like him, you know, specifically because it's a successful black man. Some of y'all, I'm not saying all of y'all don't like him just because he's successful. Some of y'all really do think that he's just a horrible person. But there's a lot of horrible people. Do they deserve to be locked up, though? Should they be locked up because they're horrible? You know, there's some horrible people right now checking out this podcast. Horrible. You know, they're not out there having freak offs. They're not getting into fights. They're not provocatives. You know, they're not, going around stealing anything from anybody. But guess what they do? All day, every day. Point fingers. All that. All day, every day, talking down, being negative. Yeah, that's horrible to me. Bad energy. All day, every day. Jumping in folks' comments, trolling. Yeah, you ain't no better than a thief. You ain't no better than somebody that like to get freaky with the same sex. You ain't no better. Yeah. You ain't want the truth, you shouldn't have came over here. Don't come over here. I'm finna hit you with some truth. Let's get into this case. Let me put up a picture of my subject here. Hours after jury deliberations in Diddy's federal trial hit a bump when the jury foreperson sent a note about juror number 25 being unable to follow instructions. A second communication from the jury room was sent to the judge. Just around 4:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on today, Diddy was brought back into the courtroom by federal marshals. Judge Subramanian announced he'd received 2 new notes from the jury. The first note sought clarification on the racketeering-related count. If an individual asks for a controlled substance and the person hands it over, it is distribution? The defense and the prosecution attorneys both told the judge they wanted to weigh in on this note. The judge said the second note was a statement, not a question. The jury was planning to go home at 5 p.m. The judge said he'd bring the jurors out to the courtroom, and he told them he'd answer the first questions on first thing tomorrow morning. He said they'd skip the courtroom and go straight into the jury room to resume deliberations at 9 a.m. sharp. After that, they left. Prosecuting attorney Maureen Comey told the judge she thinks the answer to the distribution question is yes. Of course she thinks the answer is yes. Mark Agnifilo said he wanted more time to discuss with his team. The judge ordered the two sides to confer and have an answer in an hour, an answer that we are not privy to because, it has not been reported. You see, this is how it goes, children. This is how it goes, boys and girls. One side comes out swinging, then the other side comes out swinging. One side comes out swinging, the other side comes out swinging. And next thing you know, the jury is deliberating. And then the jury hits a bump in the road and they want some clarification. Now, in my guesstimation, as a layman, I'm just a regular old man, I'm just well, that didn't come out right. I'm just a regular young man who, with an opinion, just like the rest of y'all. And I personally don't believe that the jury made its case. The prosecution made its case. I do not believe the prosecution made its case. But that's just me talking. I don't take any joy out of seeing anybody, especially a black man, going to jail and getting railroaded. You see? Not nobody, getting railroaded, right? I don't take any joy out of that, but some of y'all do. Some of y'all like seeing people get railroaded. If y'all don't like them, y'all want to see them dead. I'm talking about just don't like them. I mean, for no reason. They ain't did nothing to you personal or nothing like that. You just don't like them because he black. I know some of y'all saying, man, you always got to bring race into the situation. Race is always in this situation in this country. Race is always a factor. Anybody who says race ain't a factor is in denial or they are straight up lying. They know exactly what they're doing and they're trying to gaslight. So I say Diddy is going home. He didn't go home today. So I was wrong about that. I'm going to say again, tomorrow come, I'm going to say he's going home again. And I'm going to make a video about it. And what I want to know is, once Diddy do go home, for all of y'all who telling me, man, stop clickbaiting us, are you going to apologize? Will you apologize to me? Most of you will not apologize. You're going to go off and run into a little corner and lick your wounds. But I'm demanding apologies, and I know some of y'all handles. I'm going to be following y'all all across your social media handles. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to ask for that apology, man, because I'm going to need that. Joining us now is one of my favorite guys in the world, one of the best attorneys in the world, straight out of H-Town, my man, the incomparable attorney, Dennis Sperling. Hey.
What's up, Willie D? Always good to be back with you, brother.
Hey man, it's good to see you, man. It's good to have you on the show.
Mhm.
It's good to look, man, I had to bring in a professional because first thing they're gonna say, man, you don't know what you talking about, man. You don't know nothing. You just talking. You acting like you an attorney. Nah, I ain't gotta act like an attorney. I got a homeboy that's an attorney. What's up
Yeah,
now? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
man. So
So what do you think? What do you think about these new developments with the jury, man? They're coming out and they're telling the judge, man, we got one juror number 25, who don't want to follow instructions. The judge tells juror number 25, get back in there, man, and
yeah.
come out with a decision. and
So,
then the jury comes back out with
Mhm.
2 new notes to the judge.
I mean, Willie, I can approach this in a couple of different ways, but I would prefer to talk not like I was speaking to another attorney, and I would just talk to you, just tell you what I really think.
Right.
And I think that's been my forte, and that's why I have a relatively I have a dedicated following on YouTube, over on my channel.
Yeah,
Because
what's the name of your channel before we go any further?
the Dennis Sperling podcast. So it's easy.
Dennis, hold on. Let me
Mhm.
you can go ahead because I want to put this in because they need to follow you.
I
Dennis
appreciate it.
Sperling
I
podcast.
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. This guy right here is the truth. And it ain't often that you get the truth out there. It's not
Yeah.
often. So y'all go follow the Dennis Sperling podcast right now. Do yourself a favor. This ain't for me now. This is
Mm.
this is for you. Do yourself a favor. I promise you, you're gonna be enlightened.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, okay, so my wife's a prosecutor, my father's a prosecutor. Well, my father's a former attorney. He's passed away, but he was an attorney. My mother-in-law is an attorney.
Mhm.
So I'm surrounded by lawyers all the time, and then of course I have a lot of attorney friends. If I was speaking to the public, I would speak in a different way. But since it's just you and I, we're just gonna have a straight up conversation. This jury is fighting. And the fact that 2 hours into the deliberations, they already said we've come to an impasse, somebody's not following instructions, it lets me know. And if I was just talking, it's some ego tripping going on in there. And it's important to kind of look and look, they still may come up with a verdict. Okay. But what it let me know is, and I want to kind of break down the jury, how it's composed. You got 6 men, 6 women. You need a unanimous verdict. The men, you got an investment analyst, 51 years old. You got a scientist, 51 years old. Okay. You got a social worker, 39 years old. These are the men. An architect, 57, a field technician, 68, and a logistics analysis who's 67. And then you have another male. So it's actually 7 men and 1 and 6 women. You got a guy who's a finance guy. He's retired. And then as far as the women, you got a deli clerk who's 30. You have a female juror who's 42. She's a dietary aide. And then you got a female treatment coordinator, 74. And then you have a physician's assistant who's 43 and a female massage therapist who's 69. So when I look at that, okay, and I begin to try to figure out who's in charge in this room, I look at the men who are apparently high paid, well-educated professionals. And then I look at the women who may have a different perspective on Diddy. They may have favored some of the testimony they heard that would go against him. All of them seem to be blue-collar workers, probably not paid as well as these high-paid professionals. So I can see there being something like some kind of fight going on in there about who's going to be in charge. And so if you're an investment analyst or you're a scientist, you're not gonna sit there and listen to a deli clerk tell you what to think. You know what I mean?
No offense, but yeah, you're right.
You got a lot of science guys in there, a lot of math, money guys in there, and they're probably looking at the charges and say, hey, this doesn't fit. Okay, so again, what is distribution? And so, or you know, we're not willing to cooperate. It might be one of the women. One of the men might have said, hey, clearly this is not a RICO case. It might be something else. It's not a RICO case. And then they're harking back to what the defense attorney said. And if you really kind of look at that closing argument, right, the man did a really good job explaining away some of the ugly babies in the case. Okay. When I say ugly baby, if you got somebody who gets caught with guns and the dope, okay, but they've been accused of something more heinous like rape, then just go ahead and embrace, hey, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yeah, he got caught with the guns and the dope, but he didn't do that. You embrace the ugly baby. In other words, you tell the jury before the prosecution has an opportunity to bear out those ugly facts. Okay. So in a situation where you have a man who is video beating or assaulting a woman in a hotel lobby, then you got to explain that. You can't run from that because it's going to come out. And so what the defense attorney did very well, and I believe his name is Agnific. I don't want to mispronounce Agnifilo.
I always have trouble.
Yeah, Mark Agnifilo.
It's Agnifilo.
Agnifilo.
Yeah.
That, hey, when you see Diddy come around the corner, he has nothing in his hands. And when you see him leaving, he has his cell phone. And then as far as the bag, what was in the bag? Okay. And you know, Willie, you from Fifth Ward, and I'm from South Central LA. I've seen the crackhead fight before. Growing up in the 80s, apparently there was money, dope, and jewelry in the bag. And so the jury is sitting there saying, yeah, we get domestic. We get that this was DV, possibly, but this is a crackhead fight. And so the jury is sitting back there saying, okay, so we got this woman who got millions of dollars for an investment, millions of dollars in a lawsuit. She was with this man for 10 years. She's addicted. He's addicted. They are both addicted to drugs. They basically practice a swinger's lifestyle. Now she's moved on, you know, with her husband and whatnot. And,
30 million.
Yeah, with 30 million, you know, hey, it's the American way. And so the jury's back there thinking about that. Now, and you know, I don't want to be sexist, but I would think that a lot of women, not all, okay, and it can go either way, but a lot of women would empathize with her, and they said, oh, she's a poor victim. And, you know, and now you got these bullies, these investment analysts and these scientists, all of whom are older, trying to tell these women what to do. And so one of the women might have crossed their arms, sat in the corner and said, I'm not going to follow the instructions. He's guilty, and we're going to find him guilty of something. And so now here we are. Okay, here we are, 8 hours in. So that was the first jury charge. You know, what somebody's not cooperating. Okay. And then when I look at the second jury question, the question is something to the effect of, and if you look at the way it's positioned, okay, I mean, if you look at the way they ask the question, if an individual asks for a controlled substance and the person hands it, is that distribution? Willie D, brother. I've seen a lot of people pass a lot of things to a lot of people coming up, okay? And all of those instances are not distribution per se, okay? In other words, is distribution now just passing a joint to your homeboy while y'all ride down the street in the Cutlass? Is that distribution? Or is it distribution something that has to be more with the intent to sell? So is this what we're saying? Of course, Maureen Comey is going to say yes. And then the defense's position, Mark Agnifilo, said, well, let's kind of work on that tomorrow, because he wants to narrow the interpretation of what distribution is. And that's going to help him avoid, any liability for, casual or non-commercial drug handoffs. This man is not passing kilos of that white stuff. This is not a furtherance of his business. The man was in the music business. even one of the witnesses testified that 1%, it was approximately 1% of his duties associated with, as the defense called it, the Sean Combs enterprise, had to do with rounding up, people for sexual favors. The rest of it was business, but we're going to answer that question in the morning. But when I look at these notes coming from the jury, I see that people are fighting. I see that somebody is of an opinion. Somebody wants a conviction, and other people are saying, no, this ain't it. So, the longer they sit in that room, I'm gonna say, if they had given them this maybe Friday at 9 a.m, we probably would have had a verdict by now. Mm-hmm. But now that it's carried over to Monday, remember, these people are off work. A lot of these people seem to be of retirement age. This thing might go all the way through to the end of the week, and then that way they can come back and get a fresh start Monday. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will tell you this, in my opinion, some of the evidence that was allowed by this particular judge is prejudicial. And I can see Sean Combs getting convicted on some of the counts and then it being overturned on the appeal, because some of the things they allowed in, what was the whole point of allowing the Cassie testimony? And what was the point of allowing all these people to come in and testify over and over about the same thing? What does this have to do with a RICO charge? Where are the co-conspirators? What enterprise? Was this a enterprise? Was this a mafia enterprise? Were they doing extortion? In what furtherance? So we're selling, dope, drugs to further what criminal enterprise? And so it just doesn't fit. But go ahead, brother. I go ahead. I can.
I like how I just like, you're right. Like, I like the way you break it down in layman's terms so where we can understand it. Like, you're selling drugs to further what criminal enterprise? Like, right. The man is made. Everybody know that man made his money selling records and alcohol and clothes. We all know that. So what criminal enterprise? What is his incentive to sell drugs? What is the incentive for him to be a drug dealer? There is none. How likely is it this early in the game of deliberations for there to be a juror that gets dismissed or replaced? And how could that affect the process?
Well, everything is under a microscope when you have a billionaire client. So, remember, criminal appeals can go on for years and years and years. Unfortunately, Sean Combs has been incarcerated for some time now. So he's sitting in jail over there waiting for a verdict to come down. But it would depend. It would depend on, why this person was dismissed. There's always ground. The eyes of the world on this case. This man has been an icon for the past half century. He's associated with some of the biggest entertainers that have ever, performed music, theater, from J-Lo to Biggie. So, everybody's watching this case, and there's going to be an appeal. If Sean Combs is convicted, there's going to be an appeal, and everything that happened is going to be under a microscope. But I think that even if he is convicted on one or two of the counts, some of them are going to be dismissed because they're trash. And everybody knows that this case was trash. I think, in my opinion, this case is weaker than the one that they tried in Fulton County against YSL. And yet it moved forward, not necessarily because the man was guilty, but because it was political reasons. And I think Trump's administration, they picked it up because they didn't want to seem like they're letting a scoundrel off. But once Damian Williams, who was a former U.S. attorney at the Southern District, left, once he left, it's like, okay, there was really no fire to proceed forward, but they kind of had to. It's like you get left with the former coach moves on, right? And you get left with his team. and you got to make the best of it, you know, because you can't just waste the season. You got to do what you can with who you have. And so I kind of think that's where this is. But I think this was, to me, a half-hearted attempt to try to, you know, prosecute this case. But man, I mean, you know, there's a lot going on in this case, and you know, there's some speculation, and this is just a rumor. But you know, see, people are saying, well, maybe, you know, Diddy got to the jury some kind of way, man. And I'm like, you guys act like this dude is Diddy is not a street dude.
Right.
Diddy is not a he's not a capo. He's not a Italian mafia boss. He's not a member of the Five Families. He's not a made man. And he's just a black dude who did an internship with Def Jam and went to Howard University and did well. You know, he rode the hip hop wave and made a lot of money. That's all he is. And then unfortunately, money does a lot to people. It gives you a lot of freedom. And this is why your morality has to come into play. This is why we need Jesus. We need as much Jesus as you can, because we start getting that money, you start thinking you can do whatever you want to do, and then you get reined in. And so this is what the brother did. The brother got reined in, and this is a wake-up call. You remember back when Johnny Cochran represented back in 2000, he skated through that. And you know, I guess he got a little too comfortable, man. But my thing is this: this is not what RICO was designed for. Okay, policing people's private activity in their bedroom when this is clearly all consensual. I don't care what you say. There's not a grown-up in America who truly believes that those women didn't volunteer for the duty. I refuse. If this was a jury panel of grandparents with good common sense, they were like, oh no, we know them hot tail girls did that. I mean, I'm not talking to you like a lawyer tonight. I'm just I'm putting some lawyer.
No.
Yeah, but
you talking like a lawyer. You talking like a lawyer. You talking facts, but you bringing it down, like I say, to where we can understand it. We can all understand it. You know.
Yeah.
In your experience, are jurors more likely to sympathize with powerful figures or alleged victims in high-profile cases?
Well, you know, I think that can go either way, but you mentioned something very early, and it harkens back as I was listening to you in the background. The great Johnny L. Cochran, said that race always matters. And that's not me saying it, and that's not Willie D saying it. That's one of the greatest minds, one of the greatest legal minds from the 20th century, Johnny, I believe, Leviathan Cochran of Shreveport, Louisiana, by way of Los Angeles, California, part of the dream team for OJ. He said, race always matters. And, you know, if you got the complexion for protection, you might be all right, whether you're a rich man or whether you are a famous person or otherwise. It just is what it is. One of the greatest assessments we do as attorneys, even in the civil practice, because for the most part, I don't do criminal law anymore. I did a lot of criminal law with my daddy before he passed away. 3 acquittals, 2 here, and 1 up in Dallas. But I did not have the stomach for it because, you know, after seeing working as a law clerk, you know, watching people get ushered in and ushered out, I'm like, I don't really want to be involved in this, you know, one way or the other. I just don't want to be involved in putting people in jail and destroying their lives and such. So, you know, I practice civil. But the bottom line is, man, even in the civil practice of law, we want to know, where are we going to file a suit? What is the jury going to look like? You know, because people do not leave their strongly held beliefs at the courthouse door when they're impaneled in the jury. They see a black man and they see everything associated with those negative stereotypes of black men. You know, he's a sexual deviant. Okay, that fits. Check. He took advantage of these poor. Okay, check. And so it's a lot easier when you already have that stereotypical baggage associated with you. You know, we try to pick impartial juries, but the truth is, you don't get the juries that you pick. You get the juries that's left, because once you strike the jurors that the prosecution wants, and they strike the jurors that you want, then you just left with whoever's available. You know, whoever didn't get struck. So, man, I just think it's a BS case.
Yeah.
But that does not mean there's not going to be a conviction. because you can indict a ham sandwich. No disrespect to all the pork eaters, non-pork eaters out there, but and once you get them on that roll, once you get them in there, a lot of people, unfortunately, man, they have the opinion, well, if it's a trial, he must have done something. There's no difference. Once you're in the handcuffs, you must have done something. You see? And that's kind of where we are. And it's unfortunate, but this is how the system works. And if Diddy didn't have the money that he had with the weight of the federal government on his back, he wouldn't have got out. You see, he'd already been copped a plea. You see, so that's what I think. Those are my most internal thoughts about this particular case. Okay.
So, what role does public protest and media play once the jury is behind closed doors? What kind of role does people's public opinions? You hear people talk about the court of public opinion. What role does that play in deliberations once the jury is behind closed doors?
Well, theoretically, it shouldn't play any role, but realistically, it plays a heavy role.
That's going back to those implicit biases that you say, that you talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what you have to do is you have to try to explain to the jury that, and I've seen my father do it a lot in criminal cases. He will point out that, we have one of the greatest legal systems in the world. It's not perfect, but it's better than some places like the Soviet Union or China. And we asked that you took an oath that you would follow the law and you would follow the court's instructions. And that's why we give them written jury instructions for them to read. Now, of course, you always have people, and I said this the other day when we were here, at some point before the trial is over, most of the jurors have already made up their mind. And, they can get in a room and they can fight it out and they can come to a consensus. But, for the most part, people do not leave their prejudices and their biases at the courthouse door. And what you want to do is just try to get the worst of the worst out there. Do you have a Confederate flag sticker on your pickup truck? Huh. You see what I'm saying? If you do, but we're going to go ahead and get rid of you for cause. You see what I mean? But for the most part, most of that stuff is not even, that's not even something they talk about. You just have to accept that this is what it is and hope that they will follow the law, hope that they will abide by the requirements of the jury instructions. And then, it's really just, you never really know what a jury is going to do. You can guess. And any lawyer that does tell you they can guess what the jury is going to do, they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the judge don't even really know what the jury is going to do, right? How often, is the judge involved in deliberations? Do they kind of come in sometimes and say, yo, y'all speed it up, or like, I need y'all to get this right, they dip in there every now and then, and
nah. They shouldn't, man. I'm sure there's some country parishes down in Alabama and Mississippi where they do, but the judicial canon requires that they stay impartial. You see, so they can't go in the jury and say, y'all hurry up. They can't do that. Right. But nevertheless, I have been in a courtroom where the judge is getting ready for the sentencing before the jury even comes back with the verdict. You see? So there is some guesstimation as to, they're going to convict this guy, and for some of that same criteria we talked about before. But no, they're not supposed to do that. But of course, the judge has influence over the jurors. The judge is impartial, okay? The jury is going to sit there and say, okay, this guy objected and the judge denied him a bunch of times. Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay. Mm-hmm. The judge reprimanded this person in public. Maybe we want to be on the side of the judge. So the judge does have influence, which is why oftentimes when you get, we'll call them Old Testament judges on the bench, they somehow end up having this extremely high conviction rate and these high sentences coming out of their courts. Back in the 1980s, man, Harris County was notorious for having some of the most right-wing, card-carrying, judges in America, which is why we had so many people that ended up on death row coming straight out of Harris County. Harris County, Texas, puts more people on death row than any other state, and Harris County is number one. You see, so that should let you know, especially back in the day. But the thing is, man, yeah, the judge does have influence. I haven't heard too much out of this one, so much. I mean, there's already enough. I mean, with the media coverage, with the salacious allegations of all sorts of sex and the violence allegations, it's just, man, it's a mess. It's a big mess.
Yeah. Let's go back to what originally got us talking about this case today. The confusion that the jurors have in the instructions that they were given. How likely is it for the jury to get it wrong when they're confused or fatigued?
I mean, is there wrong and right? Because at the end of the day, they're the fact finder. Okay. So whatever facts have been presented, now if we find out if the jury is polled, which means they're asked to allow some questions after they're asked, did you vote guilty? Did you vote guilty? What was your vote? And they're able to ask some questions, and we come to find out somebody had their they were listening to Willie D the night before they came up with the verdict. That might be grounds to overturn it, but for the most part, the jury is a fact finder. So whatever facts they come up with, whatever determination they made, that's something that will have to be dealt with on the appellate level. Now, first thing would happen is they would file for a motion for new trial, and that would set in place some timelines, and then they would move forward with it. Once that is denied, they move forward with an appeal. But as far as the jury getting it right, I mean, we've seen many times where the jury's got it wrong. They relied on eyewitness testimony, and turns out somebody spent 37 years in prison, and until the DNA exonerated them. So
one day trial, 30-minute deliberations.
Yeah. So, man, it's just interesting, man. But I mean, I will give it to him. Mark Ignifilo did a great job in his closing argument. I noticed that they did not put up any witnesses at all, which means they believe that the state didn't prove their case.
Right.
And of course, he wouldn't want to put Diddy up there, because Diddy is not going to do anything but dig himself a deeper hole. Typically you don't want to put. My dad told me this once. He said, "You never put your client on the stand. You subject him to cross-examination." So
is there a rare case where you would make a conscious decision to put your client, that it would be your idea to say, you know what, this is something I just normally would not do, but in this case, I think this could work? Because I've seen cases where clients have gotten on the stands, they're rabbled, they get on the stand, and it's usually like a woman, and she start crying and going on, and she get found not guilty. I've seen that happen a few times.
So I hate to say this publicly, and I don't want to prejudice any jury pool, but typically lawyers don't put their guilty clients on the stand. Okay. All right.
Okay.
And they might not be guilty as charged, but they're guilty of something. Okay.
Right.
If you have somebody who's uber sympathetic, if you have someone who has an ironclad alibi, if that is the only way in which you can deliver this piece of evidence or to qualify some sort of statement or article to bring it in, yeah, okay, I guess. But most lawyers would rather err on the side of not putting their clients and subjecting them to perjury or forcing them to have to plead the fifth on something else. You see, right. Yeah, okay, I didn't commit this. I didn't have this dope, but there was this 187 from 1983. You see what I mean? Now you out there pleading the fifth, And the jury's like, oh man, get out of here. This is a scumbag.
Right.
So just something to think about. Yeah, but erring on the side of caution is not putting your client on the stand, your criminal client. You know, of course, in civil matters is a lot different. You need them; they're crucial in proving the case. But that's I would not recommend. But yeah, it happens. Anything can happen. Yeah, it would happen.
Well, I'm glad this happened, man. Glad you came on the show, man, and gave us some more of that insight, some of that brilliant insight, man. I appreciate you, man. Again, the name of your website is what the name of your podcast on YouTube is what?
Oh, the Dennis Sperling Podcast, but the website is DennisSperling.com. So if you've been in a car wreck, give me a call. You've been in a wreck, I'll get you a check. Get hit from the back, I can help you with that. If you get in a crash, I can get you some cash. That's what I'm talking about, baby. I don't do that criminal law no more. Don't pay enough.
Right. Thank you, man. Thanks for coming on, man. We got to get you back on real soon.
Anytime, brother. God bless you. Thank you so much. Shout out to all the Willie D audience, man. Y'all have a good day, man. Thank you so much, brother.
All right, my man. All right, fam. Dennis Sperling, attorney Dennis Sperling, always in pocket, always got that information, always got that news you can use. And, you know, he says it in a way that everybody can understand. Bring it on down, man, to the common man and woman where we can understand what's happening. And sound like to me that he's not convinced, as I am not convinced, that Diddy will be found guilty. Let me see what the rest of y'all are saying. Let's see, CD. What's up, CD? Create the imaginable. Okay. CD says, who cares? Usually the person who says who cares, that's who cares. Why would you respond at all if you don't care? Like I don't respond to stuff I don't care about. I don't give it no energy, no attention, nothing. I just don't care, right? That's when you don't really care, right? When you don't give something any energy. Rhonda says not guilty. John Turner, keep on moving. Randall Ray, what's up? Kenyatta Ali, not guilty. Will D said he sees guilty. Will D sees guilty. Willie D sees not guilty. Ahmed says money talks. What's up, Mandy? Lovely. Pro gorgeous lady. Let's see, Paulette. Y'all smash those likes up, fam. Smash up the likes. Hit that like button when you walk in. What's up, Tony C? He said Diddy in 7. Jay talked to him, I'm crying. Is this lady Sparkle? I think Kev, is it Kev? Kiwi? Kiwi says he's done. Elijah Clark, not guilty. Angela Johnson. OJ didn't kill those people. Miss B says he's guilty as F. Badger Wolf, no Rico. No Rico. Billy Williams don't think the jury can get on the same page. Phil Minor, for sure, for sure. That's my time, fam. I appreciate y'all joining the live. I do know that at what is it, at 8:30, I'm dropping a video on Carmelo Anthony. They ain't gonna like this. Hey, they ain't gonna like this one. At 8:30 Central Standard Time, I'm dropping a video on Carmelo Anthony at 8:30 Central Standard Time. 8:30 Central Standard Time. Carmelo Anthony video is dropping. In fact, I'm gonna drop it at 8:20. We're gonna move the time up. We're gonna move it to 8:20. We're gonna drop the Carmelo Anthony video. Say, fam, they're not gonna like this one. They are not going to like this. 8:20 Carmelo Anthony video coming up. Y'all check it out right here on Willie D Live. And that's my time. I appreciate y'all joining the live. Also, y'all make sure y'all go over there and join Johnny Binder YouTube channel, fam. The OG Johnny Binder YouTube channel is Johnny Binder Show. Johnny Binder Show on YouTube. In fact, let me see if I can I? Yeah, okay, I'll give y'all. I'll give it to you right here. I'll give you the link right here. YouTube.com. Let's see. Y'all check out the OG Johnny Binder dropping game. Boom. That's my time, fam. Appreciate y'all. 8:20 coming up. The Carmelo Anthony video will be posted to Willie D Live. Check it out. Don't be mad. No more talk.